So they're facing the team that feels the best of the way they're playing of any team in the playoffs. I'd say Philly maybe is a close second. The Pelicans right now are feeling better about how they're playing basketball than they've felt as an organization maybe ever, and of anyone in the playoffs.
And they happen to be playing better basketball.
They're playing great. But yes. So if they're going to give the Warriors trouble, here's what they have to do. They have to avoid foul trouble more than any other team in the playoffs. They've got 4 reliable players: Anthony Davis, Holiday, Rondo, Mirotic. This is a team, some teams go 8 deep, some teams go 9 deep. Right now the Pelicans go 4 and a possible deep. So they have to avoid foul trouble. Anthony Davis has to, if they're going to give the Warriors trouble, midway through this series, the discussion that shows like this have to be having are, is Anthony Davis the best player in the league? Is that where he is? He has to be that level of good each and every night. And they have to hope that Draymond and Iggy stay cold from the perimeter. Draymond in particular. I would say those are their 3 biggest keys to stealing one of these first few games without Steph. And that's the only way they can win this series, is if they steal home court from Golden State in those first 2 games.
I'm looking forward to this series. They present a number of problems. It all starts with the brow, not just because he's a good player. It's because the lack of a center for Golden State. Like, if you look at the work that Aldridge was able to do against Golden State, if you look at the way San Antonio was able to hang in there as far as rebounding, like, man, the Pelicans are so much better. They're so much more athletic. I like the point you talked about as far as foul trouble, because they're not that deep. And especially the Brow can't get in foul trouble, nor can Drew Holiday get in foul trouble, because he has one of the tougher two-way assignments in dealing with Klay Thompson. So I'm looking forward to this series, because I believe this is a series also that the Brow, he can get the type of people looking at his game like never before. We always thought about his potential. Potentially, he could be one of the best players. He is the best center in the NBA now. And without Golden State having a center, if he has one of those types of series, now he's just coming off of 33 and 12. He needs to play at least that good, and probably still need to score more points than that for them to have a chance against Golden State.
So let's talk about Golden State for a second. Yeah, they got out of this series with the Spurs. Spurs played them hard, and Spurs were missing Kawhi, obviously. They were tested, and yes, they won. But what kind of wake-up call do you think this was for Golden State? Because I don't know if it's going to be, a similar type of play that they're going to find in the Pelicans after this.
Well, it's odd, because the Warriors have the best point differential in the playoffs of any team, but it doesn't feel that way. They are winning these. They've won their games, including the game they lost. They've outscored their opponent by more than anyone else, more than the Pelicans in their sweep. And that feels almost impossible if you watched these games. It's because the Warriors were able to play lackadaisical for a quarter or a half, and then just blitz you with talent, even without Steph, because the Spurs were so shorthanded. They're not going to be able to do that against the Pelicans. But the matchup you touched on, CC, that is the key to the early part of the series. Drew Holiday, Klay Thompson. Drew Holiday is coming off what was obviously the best playoff series of his career, but also one of the toughest asks. We need you to be our second best point scorer, and we need you to be our best perimeter defender. Well, the ask just got tougher with all the screens they're going to run Klay Thompson off of, with the size Klay Thompson has. He has a size advantage over Drew Holiday as opposed to a disadvantage size-wise the way Lillard or McCollum did. That's the matchup outside of Anthony Davis versus whomever to watch the most in this series.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. But so you're not concerned at all?
What do you mean? I
don't know. I just felt like watching that game. It just felt like it wasn't. We always talked about is that the Warriors cakewalk. They just cakewalk through the playoffs.
The
and it
Warriors
didn't seem like
aren't
they
as good without Steph.
But the Warriors aren't going to have Steph at least for a couple games.
Okay, but they played the worst team in the playoffs in the Spurs. So it's hard to be able to analyze something off of. This Spurs team was not athletic. They didn't put any pressure on them. They gutted out on emotion game number 4 to win, to even take it to 5 games. Like, they were never a threat to Golden State.
So to your question about whether or not, where it is hard to evaluate who the Warriors are based on who they just played. I still think, even without Steph, the Pelicans have to play their A-level game. to beat Golden State. And if Steph comes back, they have to hope he's not at 100%. Unless Anthony Davis, like Cece mentioned, he went 33 and 12. I don't think that's enough in this series. I think he somehow has to take his game to an even higher level. Like we have not yet seen the Warriors at full go as of yet in these playoffs because they haven't had to be. So that's why even though they maybe didn't look wildly impressive in round one, I don't think anyone's too worried about them, even though they're playing a very good Pelicans team in round two.
I think it's good for us. I think, playing this team, they're a physical team. They get up and pressure in the backcourt. They make it tough on you offensively. It's just not easy. So I think it's good for us, in this first round to have a good competitive challenge, and they're a good team.
We feel like, it's a best-of-3 type deal and or a type series now. And, at the end of the day, if it comes to it, we got 2 games at home. So, we like that advantage, and we're going to use that to our advantage tomorrow night.
All right, Nick, break it down a little bit. What do they need to do tonight that they haven't done so well in the last couple of days to get Game 5?
Hit shots and finish. Like the defense, we talked all year, could the Cavs defense flip a switch? Well, through 4 games, it looks like it has. The accounting for pace, not just because they're slowing down, accounting for pace, defensive efficiency, Cavs are 5th best team in the playoffs. The reason they're in this dogfight is because offense, somewhere that they've never had a problem, they are 15th out of 16th teams in the playoffs. And that's with LeBron averaging 33, 12, and 9 on 54%. So hit shots, and then I say finish. Zach Lowe, who Cris mentioned earlier, made a really good point this week. That if these games were 3 quarters, the Cavs would be up 3-1. But it sure feels like if the games were 5 quarters, the series would be over. That they would have lost all of them. That the Cavs have been limping to the finish line in their 2 victories. And obviously in one of those games, that is a 17-point lead, and they blew it. So hit shots, which I don't know how much you can control, but finish the game. Come out in the 3rd quarter with some sense of urgency. Those are the 2 most important things to me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they've struggled in the first 4 games. This has been a very, very odd season. And it started with training camp. So they really haven't had a great extended period of time where the team can bond. Where does the team bond? At training camp. Who gets hurt first? Second day. LeBron James twists his ankle. Then we go through, is IT going to come back? Oh, man, IT, we're trying to get him back into the lineup. All right, get him back into the lineup. Then we go through another trade. All right, then at the end of the seasons, we got multiple injuries. We got all these different lineup changes. So for me, I believe that they can have a different game plan in this best-of-3 series. And they can get a game plan off of what happened because Kyle Korver is more dependable. Let's run more sets for him, especially early in the game. They have to get Kevin Love involved in the game. So I just believe Kyle Korver and Love have to be involved in the first quarter. And I believe that's the game plan that will lead them being successful. And LeBron's just going to do what he's got to do, keep up the defensive intensity. But offensively, they got to shoot the ball better to be able to close out the Pacers.
I love hearing who you think the starting 5 is going to be because obviously it always seems to change.
Well, that is an important question here because we don't know how healthy George Hill is. George Hill, even if statistically he hasn't been great, if you look at their 5-man lineups that include George Hill and the ones that have Calderon or Clarkson in place for him, they're 2 different teams. They have been much, much better in this playoffs against short sample size with George Hill on the court. We don't know if he's playing tonight or not. Like, you don't want to be starting Jose Calderon in a playoff game in 2018, even though they're like 26-9 with him in the starting lineup this year. So that is something I don't know who's going to be the starting point guard. I know after that it'll be J.R., Korver, LeBron, and Love.
And rotational players. You don't know if they're going to play Tristan Thompson. He gave him a huge boost in game number 4 in a short spurt there. The Cleveland fans, they booed him the last time he was put into a game there. So at Ty Lue, he's in a predicament. What do I do? How do I get the best rotation out there where there's not a lot of good rotations that had good looks through the first 4 games?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.